President Putin attributes the present tension between Israel and Palestine to the U.S. and claims that Washington attempted to resolve the political issue through economic means. Welcome everyone. In today's video, we're going to tell you Russia ready to send troops in Gaza to stop Israel. If Israel conducts a ground offensive in Gaza, Russia threatens totally unacceptable civilian losses. In the event of an Israeli ground operation in the Gaza Strip, civilian losses would be completely unacceptable, Russian President Vladimir Putin cautioned on Friday. But before we proceed the further video, if you're new to this channel, remember, go ahead and hit the bell icon to subscribe so you won't miss the informative videos we will upload in the future. While using heavy military equipment in residential areas carries significant risks for all parties involved, conducting the operation without it presents its own set of challenges, according to Putin, who was speaking at a meeting of the heads of the Commonwealth of Independent States in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. The U.S., according to the Russian leader, attempted to use certain forms of economic stimulation to address the political issue of the establishment of a Palestinian state. This led to the current escalation in the conflict between Palestine and Israel. The United States' disastrous Middle East policy is directly responsible for the current escalation. The U.S. attempted to dominate the Middle East peace process, but it was unconcerned with reaching an agreement or considering the basic rights of the Palestinian people, Putin emphasized. The Middle East Quartet was established by the U.S., Russia, the UAE, and the UN to resolve the issues surrounding the Palestine-Israel conflict. He claimed that Washington was impeding the group's efforts. All this eventually resulted in the frustration of today. We'll have a casual gathering to discuss this, said he. Putin also reaffirmed Russia's willingness to mediate a deal between Israel and Palestine. Israeli troops responded to a military offensive by the Palestinian organization Hamas on Israeli territory with a protracted and fierce military campaign against the Gaza Strip, which resulted in a major escalation of Middle East hostilities. Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, a multifaceted surprise attack by Hamas on Israel that included a flurry of rocket launches and infiltrations into Israel by land, sea, and air, marked the beginning of the conflict last Saturday. According to Hamas, the operation was carried out in retribution for Israeli settlers, increasing brutality against Palestinians and the takeover of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem. Operation Swords of Iron was then initiated by the Israeli military against Hamas targets located within the Gaza Strip. Israel's response has included cutting off Gaza's access to electricity and water, making living conditions even worse in a region that has been under a punishing embargo since 2007. Regarding the situation in Karabakh, Putin stated that in order to finally put an end to this long-standing conflict, Azerbaijan and Armenia are drafting a peace accord. In particular, if necessary, we are prepared to arrange for any kind of negotiations to take place in Moscow. We will work to make sure that a peace deal is reached at these talks and that the leaders of these nations sign it. The decision is always left to the specific nation. We are prepared to set up the requirements for this work, said he. Putin also acknowledged that given the current events in Karabakh, Armenia might decide not to host the CS sports tournament, which was set for its second-largest city, Gyumri, in 2024. Cooperation within CIS. Although several of the CIS's member nations, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine, do not operate in it, Putin lauded the group as a stable, in-demand, and effective model of cooperation. He claimed that since the beginning, Ukraine had evaded full-scale collaboration by signing, but never ratifying the core agreements of the CEs. The leaders of the nation have decided that Moldova is losing its identity, and only the people can stop them, he continued. Moldova is essentially becoming a different country. The majority of this nation's elites think they are not Moldovans. They identify as Romanians, Putin declared. According to the Russian leader, working together inside the CS gives each country the ability to strengthen their positions and promote collaboration, while honoring each nation's distinctive qualities. Putin says Russia ready to mediate Israel-Hamas war, assisting in the negotiation of a truce between Israel and Hamas militants, is something Moscow is willing to engage on with constructive partners, Russian President Vladimir Putin stated on Friday. The Russian president stated during a summit in Kyrgyzstan, "What counts now is to end the carnage." Putin reiterated earlier this week that there was no alternative to a two-state solution to the protracted conflict, saying Russia is ready to collaborate with all constructive partners. Putin's offer to mediate the situation comes days after the Prime Minister of Iraq made a direct appeal to him for help in putting an end to Israeli strikes on the Gaza Strip, a heavily populated coastal enclave that Israel has been heavily bombarding in retaliation for Hamas attacks over the weekend. Putin has characterized the crisis as a failure of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East since Hamas fighters began a brutal invasion against Israel on Saturday. He said at the time that he didn't think the conflict would finish anytime soon. Nevertheless, in an effort to assist in putting an end to the hostilities, which have so far claimed more than 2,800 lives on both sides, the Kremlin has stated that it was in communication with both Israel and Palestine. International relief organizations warn that a potential ground invasion by Israel on Friday may result in a significant rise in the number of civilian deaths in the conflict. As a result, Israel ordered hundreds of thousands of people to leave Gaza City. Hamas thanks Putin. Grateful was Hamas, whose leaders had paid 2 visits to Moscow in the previous year, senior Hamas official Ali Baraka stated in an interview with Russia Today's Arabic channel. The day following the slaughter that Russia supported Hamas and was happy with the conflict since it diverted American attention from Russia's aggressive war in Ukraine. He said that after the massacre, Russians had given Hamas supportive letters. Furthermore, he asserted that Hamas possessed factories and a license from Russia to produce Kalashnikov rifles and ammunition in Gaza. Clearly victorious, he informed the interviewer, "We are not alone on the battlefield." A few days later, Putin's support and stance against the continued Zionist war against our people and his rejection of the siege of Gaza, the stoppage of humanitarian supplies there, and the attacks against civilians were acknowledged by Hamas in a statement released by the organization. Although hardly shocking to long-term observers of the region, what makes Hamas's remarks noteworthy is that they omitted to thank Putin for supporting the idea of an independent Palestinian state. There is an easy way to explain this omission. Hamas does not actually want an independent Palestinian state next to Israel. The true meaning of the slogan "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," which is commonly chanted on American college campuses and at anti-Israel demonstrations around the world, is that Hamas is motivated by the genocidal goal of destroying Israel and its Jews and establishing a Palestinian state in their place. That's all for today's video. A ground invasion of Gaza, according to Putin, would result in severe consequences and unacceptable civilian casualties. Don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe button, so you don't miss any new videos from our channel. Thanks for watching and see you all soon.